Happy Tuesday once again. Happy Tuesday once again. Thank you again. I just want to say for tuning in, all of my viewers, to my regular channel and also to these streams. I it's been interesting. It's been interesting. It's a space where, as I've been told, I can get to know my subject in a little bit of a different kind of aspect, and my viewers can get to know me in a little bit of a different aspect, and that is always fun because I can tell from interactions that I am seen as just this one character when I'm just a ridiculous human being. And an example of that is, just so I could just put that into perspective, is I can remember a couple of years ago going to a book signing or a book event, and I had my table there with my books on the table, and nobody knew who I was. Like, this was when I first published my book in 2017, my very first book. And I had only been doing radio at that time, radio and podcasts, more radio. And my books were there. I was at my table. I had everything perfectly set up, from water, cards, books, brochures, things of that nature. And everybody just walking by. It's just really interesting. But the moment somebody came up to me and approached to ask what I had going on there, what that situation was, perfecting and reforming personal religion, from the moment I began to speak, that's when I started to get people around me. Come to find out that they recognized my voice. The event was a spiritual/religious event, so there were individuals there that were familiar with the radio station that I had been um, guest appearing on, and they recognized my voice. And just that recognition, not a face, not a sitting position, not a smile, not a style of clothing, voice. And from the moment they started recognizing my voice, it became, oh, you're from, oh, I heard you on, oh, this is, and then everything changed. It's just amazing. And so that's sort of what this has been like. It's sort of been like this streaming ability, and to be able to connect with my work, yet outside of my work, and then to listen to you who are, letting me know that my past experiences, the personal touch that I'm putting onto these things, they're making a difference. So being able to add a personal touch to everything that I'm saying, and not simply just going right into the philosophy or the core or the verse of it, different different tack, and just grateful that it's edifying those that tune into it. And that's where I will begin, I guess, because that's just fitting. It's fitting because the last time I spoke about a lot, but one thing that stuck with me is the point of view of responding. Responding not necessarily to life, responding not necessarily to hardship, but responding to the journey that our conversation takes of itself. Responding in a way that allows our conversation to be its own, and just harping back on that, and keeping in remembrance the separation of human being from the being of the devotional conversation. That stood out to me, and that placed me into a memory of how I used to love reading this point B of this verse in Timothy. In all things I have learned to be content. And I find that so relevant because our conversation, we enter into our belief in the things that are within the Bible for something relevant to us that's going on in our life. There is a pressure, there is a struggle, there is a relationship, whether with ourselves or with somebody else. There is something going on in our life. There is a loss that has allowed the Bible's words and allowed something within the scriptures of the Bible to impact us in a way that takes us away from everything and puts us into the world that is within the Bible. So the Bible has a drawing power to it. And its drawing power is found in a bit of a wisdom without that's outside of us, without us, to where it can edify us more than we can edify ourselves. So we enter into the Bible with this point of view. We enter into the Bible with this scheme, and it is in this scheme that we remain. But something happens. Something happens to where we no longer are involved with the original scheme while we're there, but now we are in whatever particular religious world, guided by whatever particular religious denomination that we are guided by, the theories of that denomination, the, the strengths of that domination, the answers that are given in ahead of time to our questions from that denomination are what become suitable and then are what become naturally comfortable. So what happens is that we forget the original reason why there was no denomination when we learned the Bible. There was there was only the inspiration of its words. After that, for some reason, denominations seemed to be necessary in order to understand what was within it, or in order to remain connected to what was within it. And so we drift. We drift not simply from the Bible initially into an already established stream of thought, or should I say, stream of theory, connected to our religious denomination or its traditional scope. We actually drift away from ourselves. We drift away from ourselves into a inherited or self-cultivated belief about what our original concern was. And so now we think the answers rest in where we have drifted off to. But soon enough, our faith is going to come calling. And when I say faith, I don't mean denominational understanding. I mean our initial confidence in the scriptures. They are going to come calling. It is going to come calling. And when it does, we will have to make a decision. And the decision is, do I remain comfortable or do I go forward to what I'm being called to go forward to? Because we have to remember that the initial calling to let the Bible be our comfort and our guide didn't come from us. We didn't we didn't wake up and say, you know what? It's Tuesday. Maybe I'll go into the Bible. We didn't just on a good day and on a good vibe and with consistent things happening in a good fashion go, you know what? Everything is right. I need the Bible. That didn't happen. If it wasn't that there was a raising up by mother and father in this, there is something that occurred in life to where nothing else was satisfactory, but there was something within the scriptures that made us go, you know what? This might be a part of my life and need to be because of its wisdom and because of its consistent care towards what is within, even though at that early point in time we have no idea what it cares for, what those words are for. There is yet something allowing us to understand that there is more in there than what we think. So that initial feeling, that initial thought, that initial approach, that initial perception, it's broken. And it's broken because we take all of that naturally and we give it out to a denominational understanding for that scriptural foundation. And it is there, and once there, that if we are there for whatever has happened to us, we remain there because it's comfortable and because it's suitable. Because this is the first thing that we saw that resonated with us. It's sort of like, that rebound after you get out of that relationship, or, damn, they just look right. And I'm going to be with that individual, and I'm just going to hold on to that because that resonates most with what I just came from and with what I have going on right now. Or, if we're not in that situation of you know, this is where I'm at. This is it. We're raised. And if raised in that sort of situation, you're not receiving the kind of edification needed in that denominational construct. And so you end up leaving and despising everything that you have been, taught because it hasn't made a personal impact on you. You don't have the same, you know, context as your parents or your friend or whatever for you to stay there because it just doesn't make sense. This isn't real. And it is not real. It's not real because there's no impression. So there's two sides of this thing. You can go for the being raised up and then all of a sudden you're out because there's no rail, or you can go with the I'm gonna hang on because this is where I'm at and this is what looks right. The one thing that's suffering is what is within us in both scenarios. Because on the one hand, our comfort in our association with what is comfortable is diminishing our intelligence, both as a human being and devotionally. Our exit from an experience that has not impressed us, but that has been forced on us, that we have thought was real, but for some reason, at some point in time, it no longer becomes real because it's not intellectually or inwardly satisfying. We're exiting, leaving behind our intellect, both as a human being and devotionally. So, what I'm saying is, there's no accident that the Bible has become a concern. And that being no accident, whether in a positive aspect or a negative aspect, and it's usually in an aspect where we are needing guidance that no human being can give, how we respond, how we respond to the calling of our understanding when it needs to be fed matters. And it matters because the life that is needing a response, although we physically are going through this, it is the life of our conversation in the scriptures. Now, whether there is a confidence, whether it is known, whether there isn't a confidence, whether it is unknown, whether there is an in between there, what is within us needs that answer. And it is our responsibility to let what is within us find its answer. In allowing what is within us to find its answer, we allow the wisdom from that experience to guide our journey. No one can just open up the Bible and say, I'm going to read it from Genesis to Revelation. And if you do, that is a fake, false experience because this isn't a book. This isn't a book you can just pick up and go, hey, listen, it's 6:15. I got nothing to do. I'm going to read the Bible. That's not how that works. And if it does, it's for an investigation that is or might be, depending on the context of the individual and their desire, contrary to the actual intention to what the Bible is for. And being contrary, it's not going to be read in a right context. The Bible has to be read in a right context. And the context of the Bible is read in, it is read through a lens that needs help. It is read through a lens that needs help. Sure, there are stories in there, there are parables in there, there's philosophy in there, there is wisdom, guidance, counsel in there. And then there is the opposite in the Bible also. There is what not to do, there is what not to be, there is what not to say, what not to think, and everything else in between. So picking up the Bible and just reading it, while there is a certain pleasure that may come from that, there also needs to be a heart to go with that. And it is responding to the heart that goes with that that matters. And if the intention is genuinely just to read, have at it. But when reading, allow, because each and every single one of us have within us a level of brokenness, no matter how high or how low or how much you want to ignore it or not ignore it, there is a level of brokenness inside of each and every single one of us. And so it is through that level of brokenness that the words within the Bible make their impact. So responding to that level of brokenness is really what I'm getting at. Because we take our level of brokenness initially, not depending on who we are, we take that level of brokenness and we hide from it. We hide it away. And we take ourselves and we place ourselves into a comfortable situation and setting with agreeable principles to who and what we are and what we expect to believe God, quote unquote, God is supposed to be defined as, and we hide in there. And so we don't respond to the reason for why we are wanting the scriptures. The response is standing out to me because it's the response of how we handle our situations, our thoughts and our feelings, our behaviors, and everything in between that are actually a judge of how far we will go with our growth and development as a human being and also as a devotional creature. It is the response and not the reaction. It is the response and not the reaction. How we respond determines how our response is reacted to. How we respond determines the reaction we get. And if we're responding to the hurt by hiding, we can expect life to react in a way where it will hide from us. If we are responding in a way of sincere brokenness, in the acknowledgement of that brokenness, we can expect life to react to brokenness with brokenness, giving us paths and opportunities and windows to claim the brokenness for the sake of helping or healing that brokenness. A broken heart, a broken heart and a contrite spirit thou will not reject. I would have mercy above sacrifice, and the knowledge of God more than burnt offerings. There is a character and there is a train of thought that goes into the reaction that life and that the living God would have toward the individual responding to life and to the happenstances the living God allows to take place on that life. And so there is a work that we can't ignore, and it is a work of responding. It is a work of responding in a way where we can take something out of nothing and send it upward. Let rain fall down onto that and sprout up or spring up something beneficial for us to carry with us as a building block to the home temple that is within, or as a building block to the character that is developing within. It is our response to tragedy and to joy. It is our response to elation and disappointment. It is our response to the initial reason why, with all of those other character traits associated. It is our response to the reason why we have joined ourselves and care to join ourselves to the Bible that will allow our journey to continue in the way that it's supposed to. And I've spoken to different people that have, I'm 60 something years old, I'm 50 something years old, and what you're saying makes sense. But at the same time, how am I supposed to be renewed in the spirit of my mind at this late age? It really doesn't matter about age. It's time of life and season. Life has its seasons. It may not have been one season to catch on to what was real in their youth. It may not have been the season for one, to catch on at whenever. But life has its season, and we can again respond accordingly or not. And the response that we take towards what is within us, I believe that it dictates how we live and how we die. How we respond, I believe, dictates how we live and how we die. Because life has a consciousness within it. There's an invisible consciousness within this life that does not care about how we feel, that does not care what we think. Every word we say is heard. Every word we say is processed. And the narrative that those words and what is processed takes place, after that narrative, life doesn't care. Life keeps going. So if we're going to pass over these seasons that a at times thoughtless life, or should I say, at times thoughtless mind within life is bequeathing to us and is sincerely giving to us. If we're going to pass that up, who knows how much longer we will get the chance to get that back. And who knows, because of our negligence, what life will then put us through for being ignorant to its sincerity, so that it can again prepare us to receive what it needs for us to receive for that elevation and that reformation within. So what we are as human beings, we're dealing with a lot here. We have a mind within and we have a mind without. There is a mind within us, there is a mind without us that we can't see, and then there is a mind above all. So we have to respond accordingly, because if not, is it possible that we are wasting life's time? is that possible? Is it possible to waste life's time? We can waste our time, we can waste other people's time. Is it possible that we are wasting life's time? Never quite thought about that, but that's an interesting thought. Because we have to get ourselves straight. And everything that life allows to happen to us, and even the things that we want to happen that don't happen, all things are working for creation. That's sort of the watchword ever since I began these streams is creation. Everything is for creation. And to be able to allow creation to work means being able to disassociate yourself from the creation itself, from the act of creation itself, and from what is to be created. Because it's not for us. This part of the journey isn't for us. There are things that are for us, and we'll feel them. But there are also things that are not for us, that are for within us, and we will feel them. And how we respond to that part of this living journey, how we respond to that part of this living journey, will greatly affect what we experience externally and what we experience from above. So responding to the conflict at hand, being able to find contentment in the conflict at hand, is our challenge, because we have needs. We have living needs, we have mental needs, we have inward needs. And each and every single one of these needs, they're not always going to be met, and when we need them or want them to be met, and so contentment becomes an issue. Yet it must still be found. Contentment yet must still be found, and it will be, depending on how we respond to a lack of contentment. And so no matter what we're going through, no matter where we are, the remembrance and remembering the reason for why we have within us the pull towards the scriptures, being content with that original thought, that original perspective, to step away from ourselves, to feed what is within us from the scriptures, from those words. Contentment in response. And I'm saying this, it can be applied to general life, but I'm saying this in regards to the devotional conversation. And I love the responses that I'm getting, where I'm reading under the comments of my videos. It's weird to think about the Bible caring for the devotional conversation when traditional religion would have us care or think about something else. I love that. Because at the heart of the Bible's philosophy, that's the number one care. The number one care is the devotional conversations, thoughts, feelings, mind, conscience. And so I'm coming from the perspective of allowing the individual reading my work or hearing my voice to understand that what is within, and especially that is connected to the scriptures, has a conscience of its own, has thoughts of its own, has feelings of its own, and has a character that needs to be developed. And it just so happens that we are joined to that, in that we have our own thoughts, feelings, character, and growth and development. But what is within us also has its thoughts, feelings, character, growth, and development. And a separation of the two, we need to let that happen. Words need to work for what words are for. Life will work with what life is for. We are for life. What is within us, that's for words. When words can work with what is within, however life handles us, we will be able to handle it because we have the wisdom within, given from the words that are within the scriptures, along with the experience of placing those words into practice for a practical application for wisdom to handle life. So again, how we respond guides the state of our mind personally and devotionally, and how we respond determines what we get in return as a reaction. Because life will respond to us, but most often than not, as I've learned, I'm still young and I have a lot of life, and the living God ain't done with me yet, but I'm learning that there is more of a reaction from life than a response. Sure, life responds, but only when we do. When we react, that's when life reacts. So we have to be careful and pick and choose where we want to attack and humbly approach life from. Because we can either get a reaction and response, or we can get the reaction of a response. And that's the challenge for us in our journey, because however old we are or where we're coming from, life has done a lot to us to the point where we can think there is no such thing as enough to life. It just keeps going. It keeps harping. It keeps piling. But there is a living God watching and hearing. And the living God is intelligent beyond the intelligence, the invisible intelligence, guiding this realm of life that we have on earth and beyond what is within us. And so responding allows us invisible edification that is visible to what is within us. So that what is visible to us, what is carnal to us, what is sensation to us, we can virtuously handle that and move forward in the peace that we should. So, as always, just take that one thought of responding and response. And for the rest of this week and for the rest of your time, after hearing this, give response. Don't give a reaction, whether to a person or to yourself or to the words within the scriptures. Respond accordingly. Response comes with thought. Reaction comes with impulse and with no thought. Respond accordingly. Take care for now.